Yo, what is up guys? Grim here. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Ascendencies. The patch notes just came out, so we have a very good idea of exactly what builds are going to be good and what builds aren't going to be good. So today we're going to be going over what the best Ascendencies for speed clearing, mapping, and making money are going to be in the Bestiary League. Just keep in mind this is from a softcore perspective. I don't play hardcore, and I'm not really going to be talking about it much in this video either. So we'll get straight into it, and I want to talk about each of the ones which I think are going to be very powerful for mapping. Keep in mind, I'm not going to be talking about the ones which aren't as powerful for mapping, and if I've left a few out which you think are really good, then I guess we could just chat about that in the comments down below as well. So let's get straight into it. For DPS, or actually like the map clearer, we're going to go over those first, and then we'll go into support second. So to start off with, the Inquisitor. This is personally my favorite ascendancy in the whole game, and it didn't get any nerfs, and it didn't really get any buffs either. So the Inquisitor is basically going to be your cookie cutter, kind of speed clear, kind of monster that it always was. So in 3.1, you'd be going for the Inquisitor for any spell-based shield charge kind of build. And very often you'd also be going and looking at it if you need more damage on any elemental attack build as well. So the Inquisitor is still going to be serving that role in 3.2. Basically, if you're using shield charge and a spell, Inquisitor is where you want to go if you're using elemental damage. And that's still very much going to be the case. So with Instruments of Virtue, this is basically where you get all your speed clear kind of power. You get a ton of attack speed, a ton of cast speed, and a ton of damage. And then obviously you get the big amount of damage boost from ignoring elemental resistances and stuff. That's all still going to stay the same. So Inquisitor is my pick, basically number one for a kind of introductory speed clear build for the new league. I don't think it's actually the best anymore. I do believe that there is a new top dog in town for speed clearing. But for the start of the league, this is going to get you off the line quickest, and it's going to be the best low investment kind of ascendancy to get started with. So Inquisitor is a very strong pick. Next up, I want to talk about the Trickster. The Trickster is also a very powerful ascendancy now for kind of speed clearing and damage in general for mappers. So the Trickster got a lot of new toys to play with, and it's looking very good. So to start off with, we're going to start off with the damage that it got in the new patch. So it did get this known here, Harness the Void. It's going to be giving you a ton of damage. It did actually get nerfed from what it was previously at from announcement, but it's still very powerful. You're going to be looking at getting a lot of damage, but randomly. So when you look at this, you can't rely on the damage you're going to be getting from this. When you like factor this into your build, you only want to be factoring this in like longer fights, like 10, 20-second fights, because when you're clearing, you don't want to rely on something that gives you RNG. So the Trickster has very high boss damage, but its clear damage is significantly lower than the Inquisitor. So if you're playing a build like Cosbury Discharge or something like that, that doesn't really need the damage for clearing, but wants a bit more damage for bossing, Trickster is excellent for that. It's going to juice up your boss damage heaps. And there's some neat things you can do with the Harness the Void and conversion, but I'm not going to go into that like for this video. In short, the Inquisitor and the Trickster are very similar in terms of how fast they're going to go. It's just one has more consistent damage on bosses and overall for the clear, which is Inquisitor, and then the Trickster, if you're playing any elemental conversion kind of stuff, is going to have way higher boss damage. So if you're doing like tier 15 or tier 16 maps, and you're clearing that with a new Elder Orb, and you're having trouble with damage in your build or anything like that, the Trickster should be able to help you out where the Inquisitor wouldn't be able to. Because you're going to be able to sometimes hit for like 200% of your damage if you line up all of the kind of random number generators for Harness the Void. So if you hit the 25, 15, and 5, you hit so much damage. So Harness the Void is very powerful. Trickster also has a lot of attack speed built in it, which is very nice. Its movement skills don't cost mana, which is very nice as well. For something like Cosbury Discharge and Cyclone, it lets you reserve all of your mana. So Trickster overall is a very powerful option. It has free frenzy charges and power charges, and it's very powerful indeed. So we've got the Inquisitor for kind of clear speed and consistent damage. We've got the Trickster for clear speed again, and a bit of like higher ceiling of damage, but less consistency. And then finally, in my opinion, the best clear speed ascendancy now is by far the Deadeye. The Deadeye is completely insane, all because of one node, and that's Gathering Winds. Um, Having said that, though, it's not the most like powerful ascendancy for every build. It's specifically for things like Wind Ripper and the Wander, which make use of all this projectile damage it has around the tree on here. If you're playing something like EK or like Spark or something like that, you don't want to be going Deadeye most of the time. You still want to be choosing from the Inquisitor or the Trickster. But for things like Wind Ripper or any bow build, any wand build, or anything like that, you want to be 100% of the time doing Deadeye on softcore, and that's because of the Gathering Winds node here. So straight off the bat, you'll notice that it gives you 1,000 evasion rating, flat, permanently. It's just always on you, which is very good. That is a lot of evasion. It's about half of what a Queen of the Forest is, and that's going to help you out a lot when you're trying to cap out your evasion for your Queen of the Forest movement speed. Because remember now that that caps out at 100% movement speed, and this is going to help you get there a lot easier. It also gives you 10% more attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed. It might not say that directly on the node here, but that's basically what the effect of Tailwind gives you. So basically what you're getting is free Insanity Gloves almost, 10% more movement speed. So if you had 110%, sorry, 100% movement speed, you'd end up with 110. And then if you had 200, you'd end up with 220. So it's going to give you 10% more of that. And then you're also going to get a bit of cast speed. If you're playing any sort of caster, that's also very nice. Not only that, but it also gives it to your entire team around you. So it's like an aura effect. So if you're playing with support or another damage dealer, you're going to be giving that aura to them as well. So they're getting that 1,000 evasion as well. They're getting that 10% move speed and that 10% cast and attack speed. So that's really fantastic. It definitely makes you almost into a bit of a support as a Deadeye, and you're going to be wanting a Deadeye in almost every group because clear speed is obviously king, and this gives you a lot of it. It doesn't even stop there for this node though. If you attack 10 times, it doubles the bonus on yourself. So instead of 10% more attack and cast speed, you're getting 20% more. So it's better than Insanity Gloves now. And you're getting 20% more movement speed. So if you have that 200 move speed again with your Queen of the Forest, you're going up to 240 now. With Gathering Winds on you, which is just pure insanity. That is all just for 2 points on your Ascendancy, and that is it's just crazy. So if you're playing Wind Ripper or the Wander build, you'd be insane not to go for this. Again, free Insanity Gloves and free movement speed. It's just so good. And also your evasion rating goes up to 2,000 as well. So you're not just getting 1,000, now you're getting 2,000. So easy to cap out that Queen of the Forest, really good. But the Deadeye didn't just get that either. It also got this node over here, Fast and Deadly. Fast and Deadly, it says straight up that you get your accuracy rating and you double it. So that is super duper powerful for builds like obviously the Wander and Wind Ripper. Generally Wanders you can use like Kosade, but a lot of people have been moving away from that and going towards Escher's Mirror for more damage. So the accuracy rating is going to basically cap you out at around 90% without any effort on most builds. I think I was putting together a Wind Ripper tree, and normally you have to use accuracy jewels, like Abyss jewels and stuff like that, and pick up accuracy nodes to get to 90%. But with this node, you don't even have to do that. And it's just so good. It's so much more damage, and it's just really fantastic. And then on top of that, you get some projectile damage and some attack speed as well. And of course, the mirror arrow and blink arrow is okay, but I don't think that's really going to be why you take this node. You take it for the accuracy, and that's the main reason. And then finally, we do have basically what we had before, some projectile speed, fast shot, and then +1 projectiles. And I guess there are a few other options here if you want to go for them, but these are the main ones you'll be taking. So all of these things for Deadeye is just basically a straight buff for Wind Ripper and the Wander. And then there is also this node here, which is quite good if you're playing Kinetic Blast on the Wander. You might want to look into taking that over the +1 projectiles. But yeah, so Deadeye is very powerful. So basically, the kind of way it's looking for DPS is that the Pathfinder and the Raider, they can't really stand up to the Deadeye on softcore at least. Nothing comes close to Gathering Winds from either of those other two trees. So you're going to be going Deadeye on almost all of your projectile-based kind of weapon builds coming up. So we've got the Inquisitor, the Trickster, and the Deadeye. That's basically the kind of like holy trinity for damage dealers in terms of clear speed. You got your Wind Ripper and your bow kind of characters, which can go Deadeye, and then you have all of your shield charge, spear, like spell kind of casting stuff going either Trickster or Inquisitor. So that's kind of basically covering the whole clear speed meta in terms of everything available like right now. If we get some new threshold jewels or some of the new armors or something like that, kind of spruce things up a little bit, then we might look into some of the other ascendancies. But right now, you're going to be going for one of those three if you're going for the absolute highest clear speed you possibly can. And the best by far being the Deadeye with the Wind Ripper bow, in my opinion. And then a close second is obviously the Wonder with Kinetic Blast. But I don't think EK is anywhere near as good as Wind Ripper anymore. Wind Ripper really pulls ahead with that 20% more movement speed, and it makes it very powerful with Queen of the Forest. So now that we've covered the DPS kind of side of things, let's talk about the different changes we've got for supports. So supports across the board got a massive buff in this patch. We've got some new supports kind of coming out of the woodwork a little bit with the occultist. I've talked to a few people, and it does seem that the occultist may become a new kind of support, like this kind of curse support that just does curses. It doesn't do the whole champion thing. It focused more on just curse effect and all that kind of stuff. So we may see some new types of support, specifically in hardcore. I would say that we'd see this kind of support, mainly because of the change to malediction. And what the change here has been is that we're getting a 10% reduced damage to taken from monsters that are cursed, and also they take 10% increased damage. So it's a 10% more multiplier on the monsters, and they deal 10% reduced damage to you. So that's very powerful, specifically in hardcore again, or pushing 100 in softcore. It's also very good. And all of this is going to have a ton of curse effectiveness on it. So your temp chains, your enfeeble, all that stuff is going to be that much more powerful. And you also get +1 curse now from the occultist tree. So we could see some sort of a curse support coming out, which is just focusing on curses and the new malediction buff and some of that stuff. Maybe with the Dowagery chest piece or the new spider set coming up, that could be really interesting. I would be interested to play with some of these kind of supports as well. I think that would be really cool. I'm kind of going to go over the core kind of ascendancies first, and then I'll get to the monstrosity that is the ascendant. But in terms of other supports, we still do have our guardian mana energy shield kind of support. So if you're seeing, if you're looking at guardian for a support choice, then you're going to be basically just getting the energy shield now. It's going to give you a lot of defense and stuff like that. If you're looking at these kind of nodes here, the physical reduction and all that kind of stuff, that actually can be gotten from the Ascendant now, and I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, if you're playing Guardian, you're playing it for the massive amount of energy shield that you can give to your team. So Guardian's still very good. It's going to be very popular on hardcore, I imagine, for pushing 100 or killing the Uber Elder and stuff like that. So if you're supporting and you want to like make the team tanky, then Guardian's your best bet. Moving on, we have the new and improved champion. The champion has gotten massive improvements. They were already very powerful. I'd say they were one of the best supports in the game, but they've gotten even better. So with champion, basically the way you used to play it is with a Quill Rain bow, which is the fastest bow in the game, and you used to use Ice Shot. And you'd play with 2 ice shots. You'd use 3 curses, I think, on one and 3 on another one, and or maybe it's not that many, but basically you'd use Ice Shot with Curse on Hit on everything, and you'd try and curse the whole screen. And when you do so, you taunt all the monsters as well with your Ascendancy. And that was very powerful. The one downside though is that you were using a bow, and because you don't use Queen of the Forest on support, you couldn't keep up with all of the clear speed builds, and you'd fall behind the team. However, because of the Deadeye changes, you won't be falling behind as much anymore, which is really good because Deadeye now gives you some movement speed. So Champion got a lot better in terms of kind of keeping up with the team, and I think it's going to be not falling behind as much anymore. In addition to that, things can no longer be taunt immune in terms of bosses. So Shaper is no longer taunt immune. A lot of the Guardians are no longer taunt immune. So it's going to be much more viable to bring a kind of a champion to these kind of boss fights if you've got a friend who's playing that support, which is really good. And in terms of the overall kind of power of champion, it has been increased as well. So not only does it give you all of the more multipliers and stuff that it did before, and damage reductions that you used to get from taunting things, but now it gives you and your whole team free Lycosidé. As you can see here, enemies taunted by you cannot evade attacks. So if you're playing with a Wind Ripper character or a KB character, they're going to have a 100% chance to hit when they hit anything that you have hit already as well. And that is massively powerful. That is so good for clear speed and damage on bosses. As you heard before, you get around 90% chance to hit. So 1 in 10 chance, like 1 in 10 shots that you shoot are going to miss. But with the champion around, those attacks are no longer going to miss. So again, that's very powerful. It's very strong. and that's just one of the buffs that the champion has got. It's also gotten more movement speed on Inspiration and a few other little bits and pieces around the Ascendancy tree as well. So overall, champion kind of curse bot is very powerful. I think they're still going to be very popular in the new league. However, in terms of kind of synergy, if you had a champion and an occultist, you might want to look into making the champion go something a little bit different. But if you have that many support players, it shouldn't be a problem anyway. And then finally, I want to talk about the Necromancer and the most popular support in the game, the Aura bot, so to speak. That has changed significantly. It's still just as powerful to go an Aura Necromancer. However, they have introduced a new type of support which is going to be even more powerful than Necromancer. Basically, it's the Necromancer, but it outshines the Necromancer in every single way, shape, and form. So no longer are you going to be going Necromancer for the Aura support, you're going to be going Ascendant. And the reason for this is because if we take a look at the Ascendant and what it offers you as the Necromancer, it actually gives you the main thing that you looked for as a Necromancer for the auras. It gives you the 3% increased attack and cast speed to your allies per aura just from one node on the Ascendancy. And that's insane. That is completely insane. And the reason that's insane is because if you look over here on the Guardian, you also get the same effect from the Guardian. So the 1% physical damage reduction to you and your allies per aura is also there for the Guardian. So not only are you giving a massive offensive boost as an Aura Mancer, you're also giving a massive defensive boost. So if you have 10 or 11 auras, you're reducing 11% of the physical damage your team is taking, which is really crazy. And you're still giving the attack and cast speed that you would normally giving to your team as a Necromancer. And it doesn't even stop there. You get more quality of life for the mana and for maximum life regeneration. So if you're playing low life or blood magic, a lot of the time you had to run a stone golem with the headpiece enchant. You might be able to get away with not doing that anymore. I'm not entirely sure. But on top of that, you also get some aura effectiveness on your team, which is really good. So 10% increased effective auras. You might think, that's a joke, right? No, it's not. So all you're giving up to get that is, if we look up here as the Necromancer, what you're giving up is 30% increased damage and 20% elemental resistances for the team. So that 10% increased aura effectiveness actually makes up for all this stuff here, because you're running Wrath, Hatred, Haste, you're running Anger, and all that kind of stuff. If you increase those by a further 10%, that more than makes up for that 30% increased damage to your team, because flat damage on stuff like Wrath, and hatred and all that kind of stuff is far more powerful than just a 30% increase to your damage. That's basically like one node or two nodes on the tree, whereas the others is almost like a dual socket if you want to think of it that way. Again, the elemental resistances, if you've ever played with an Auramancer, you'll know that elemental resistances are not a problem. You end up having like 300% of each elemental resistances anyway, so losing another 20% to gain that physical damage reduction and 10% increased aura effectiveness is a no-brainer. So Ascendant support is going to be the new meta for the auras in terms of all that kind of stuff. There's no reason to go Necromancer anymore. You 100% want to go Ascendant. And another reason for that is because you get a ton more skill points and flexibility with your skill tree. So traditionally you'd have to start at Necromancer, but now you can choose to start either from Necromancer, Guardian, Templar, or just from the center. And that's very powerful because a lot of the time as an Auramancer, you need to path all around the tree, like down here to get Aura nodes, up over to the left over here. So being able to chop big bits out of pathing out of your tree is going to be very powerful. We talked to a few of our support players in our kind of team network, and they were saying that you could do a full Auramancer tree with a bandit for like 87, level 87, and that's much better than what you used to have to be to go full auras. So that's very powerful. And then finally, there is one other thing here. You and nearby party members share power, frenzy, and endurance charges with each other. This ability is not to be overlooked. It's very powerful. So as an EK Nova kind of player last league, I always had max endurance, frenzy, and basically all the charges. But my support, they couldn't generate them because they're obviously not attacking. They're not using things like Blood Rage, of course. So they couldn't get those charges. So overall, they would be a little bit slower and less tanky than you because they were missing those charges. But things like frenzy charges and endurance charges, you will now be sharing with them as long as they're near you as an ascendant. And that's not just you. That's not just you giving it to them. That's everyone giving everyone charges. So that's very powerful. So if you're playing with other damage dealers and they're missing a charge, you'll give that charge to them. So that's super duper crazy. Massive buffs across the board for pretty much everything but Inquisitor. Inquisitor didn't need a buff though, it was already very powerful. So the clear speed mana is still well and truly alive, it's still kicking. All the builds which were good this league are going to be good again. EK Nova, Cosprey, Wanda, all the supports are fantastic and even better than before. We've still got things like Wind Ripper, obviously. So yeah, everything's good. There might be a few new clear speed builds coming out with the new items. I'm going to be trying a lot of things. I've been playing around with Spark just in case EK Nova got done in, but it didn't. Obviously, it's still kicking around, so I might play around with that. But I might bring Spark in there and see if we can't make that a bit better than EK Nova. We'll have to see. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this quick rundown of Ascendancies. I'm going to be talking about my league starter and all that kind of stuff and my plans coming up. I also have some plans to start up a Discord server so that we can all play together. I am currently missing a lot of the kind of key roles in my party. So if you guys are thinking about playing some of these different types of supports, maybe we can get you on the team and gear you up as well. That could be pretty fun. So yeah, Discord server, patch rundown, my league start, and all that kind of stuff should be coming up in either today or tomorrow. So look out for those things. Thanks for watching, guys, as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.